Hello, friends. Is that what Maile says to start these videos off? Hi, it's Eric of the Maile and Eric YouTube channel. I bet some of you forget that my name is in the title of this channel. What is up, everybody? I am doing a video this week because Maile is out of town in Disney World. I'm sure you're going to see some content around that trip coming up soon. But I wanted to do a video, firstly, because Maile said, I need a video for Friday. This is Friday. Hopefully I remember to upload it. But I want to do a video. Maile has done them a couple times on like books that she's read or just talking about what she's reading right now, that kind of thing. And being perfectly honest, I'm kind of way behind on my reading for this year. And I wanted to just talk about the books that I read over the past year that I liked the most, that I had the biggest affinity for. I don't really do star ratings on my Goodreads. I just log what books I've read. So I don't have a good, like, these are all 5 stars. But I just wanted to share what books I had been reading and make some recommendations for you all if you're interested. I think I'm going to try to do a couple of fiction and a couple of nonfiction books because I do like to read a pretty healthy mix of those two, and just kind of talk to you about why I like them and why I think they are a good read for everyone. Another thing to note, I don't buy physical books that often. And so I don't have copies of these to like hold up. So I'll try to remember to put image here or here. Yeah, probably here. Yeah. So the first book that I want to talk about, it's actually a book series, but they're all pretty short, is the Wayward Children book series by Sean McGuire. They are a series of books surrounding a school for children who have gone down the rabbit hole, as it were. There are a lot of Alice in Wonderland references, especially early on. But the idea that there are these other worlds or planes of existence or whatever that children can get lost in and go down the rabbit hole. And so to us, they would be classified as missing children, but then a lot of them come back changed and not really suitable to live in our world anymore, because either they live decades, like Narnia, they live decades in this other world, and then they come back and they're expected to go to 3rd grade math class when they've lived a whole life. They've married, had kids, grown into old age, and then all of a sudden they're thrust back into a child's body. Or they've just gone like the Disney movie adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, the live action, where it's a lot more epic in scale, where you have some of these kids that go and like, they save a whole world. And then once again, coming back and being told by your parents to go make your bed, they're going to have difficulties adjusting to that paradigm. And so the book follows a school that is set up by this woman for these kids. And she presents it as kind of a psychiatric facility where, you know, they help these kids deal with the trauma, because a lot of parents assume something horrible happened to their child and they've made up this fantastical story to cope. And so the woman who runs the school presents it as helping the children cope with what happened to them and learn to live in the actual world again. Whereas her actual mission is to get the kids back to their world. And so she brings the kids in and either helps them cope with the idea that they're not going to be able to make it back, or help them figure out a way to get back, because a lot of these kids desperately want the life that they had, not the life that they have here. And there are, I think now 10 books in the series, maybe 9. I have not read the most recent one. Like I said, I'm behind on my reading, but the first 8 books were phenomenal. I thoroughly loved them. I love the characters, and you get new characters that come in and out. Some of the characters get to return to their story. Some characters find new stories. Some characters leave the school. So it's a very fluid cast of characters, but it's phenomenally well written. And it does a great job of talking about how difficult childhood can be, and also how difficult it can be to let go of things that you really cherish from your childhood and things that you love about that time in your life, and how to move on into adulthood or find ways to continue to engage with it in a way that is healthy. So highly recommend it. It's a great read and also very impactful and engaging. Okay, nonfiction book that I read that I really, really loved is called Palaces for the People by Eric Kleinenberg. And it is all about, or I guess the full title is Palaces with People, How Social Infrastructure Can Help Fight Inequality, Polarization, and the Decline of Civic Life. So this is all about the loss of third places in our society, specifically in American society, where everything has to be transactional. There are very few places that you can go just for free to spend time with people or make new friends or just get out of the house and hang out somewhere. Coffee shops, you have to buy coffee. Museums and places like that charge admission. And so Palaces for the People is actually what Carnegie called libraries back before he spent a lot of his money building libraries across the United States. And because they really were the modern day palace, but dedicated to everyone. And so it's a great book about how these places can have a meaningful impact in different societies, different cultures within America. And it gives a lot of really insightful stories about organizations that are currently trying to reinstitute these kind of places, even small public parks. There's a phenomenal organization in the Philadelphia area who goes and finds empty lots that have been overgrown. There's lots of bushes or tall grass and stuff like that. And all they do is they go do landscaping renovations in those areas and basically turn them into a place where people can gather. Kids can go play, things like that. And statistically, what you see is a reduction in crime across the board in those neighborhoods after they've done this landscaping renovation, because a lot of logistical reasons of it's very easy to do various crimes in places that have tall grass, bushes, things like that. And then additionally, it just creates a sense of pride amongst the people that live in the neighborhood. And so they want to take care of the space and they want kids to be able to go play in those spaces and things like that. So it's a really great read if you're interested in outside of like the macro level, like federal level government and like laws and policies can affect things like social inequality and polarization and our civic life, and how people can have a positive impact in those areas to create a better, more engaging life for everyone. So I'd highly recommend that book. Palaces for the People is just what you can search and buy the book. Okay, next fiction book that I want to talk about is Stephen L. Peck's A Short Stay in Hell. This is another pretty short read, and it was a book that I read. I finished it pretty late at night. Like I was a handful of pages away from finishing it. And I was like, I got to knock this out. And boy, did I not go to sleep for a while after I finished it. Like I just kind of laid there. So the back of the book blurb kind of thing, not the actual back of the book blurb, but just a short synopsis, just so you know what you're getting yourself into. It's a short book about a man who goes to hell. He finds out that, none of the world's religions that we currently engage with and are like the big religions were right. And so he's face to face with a demon who explains, nope, this is the religion. Only about 100,000 people have ever worshipped it over the course of human history. Them's the breaks. Sorry. And so he gets sent to hell. But there are different versions of hell for different people. And you can escape hell. You have a task that you have to perform. And then you get to leave hell. And the task is he is sent to a massive library that has every possible book that could ever be written in terms of like random letters. And you have to find the book that tells your life story without error. And as soon as you find that book, you get to go to heaven. And it's his journey trying to find this book. And it's an incredibly, I don't even want to say impactful. It's just a very engaging read about the nature of people. And if people had time as a resource removed from them and they were given a very specific task, because he's not the only one there. There are a lot of people that were sent to this version of hell, and they're all looking for the same thing, the book that tells their personal life story. And it's a really interesting read about different cultures and how we can connect with people who, once again, come from wildly different lifestyles, different times. Like, once again, time is meaningless. So he's engaging with people that died centuries before him and decades after him. But they all seemingly showed up at the same time. And it's just a very interesting but existentially challenging read. And there's a lot of different twists and turns in the story, and the chapters jump huge amounts of time. Because once again, a task like this isn't going to take a few days unless you're incredibly lucky. And so some of the chapters, you're jumping hundreds of years into the future of this one man's journey of trying to find this book. And if that sounds interesting to you, then you will absolutely adore this book. If you think this sounds like a horrible book and you have no interest in reading it, do not read it. Because I'm not hiding any like great mystery within the book. Like what I've described is what the book is, and it's not ashamed of that. And I would very much recommend reading it if this idea sounds interesting to you, because I really, really loved it. Nonfiction book. And this has also been adapted, seems like the wrong word, but there is a Netflix show based around the ideas of the book. But this past year, I also read Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, Mastering the Elements of Good Cooking. And it is a book that if you enjoy cooking at home, if you're passionate about it, or if you just like doing it at a base level, I would recommend reading it. Like if you cook, because it is a phenomenal read in breaking down the different aspects of why food tastes good to us and how to balance it. And it is very much, it's a way to get past just following recipes all the time. It's a book that's really good about giving the information to where you can taste something that you've cooked and have a good sense of what needs to be added to it if something tastes off. And salt, fat, acid, heat are obviously the four big elements that it covers. And I will say that it had an immediate impact on my cooking at home. I was able to instantly tell the difference in the food that I was making, whether or not I added a bit more salt to it or got some kind of acid, whether it's citrus, vinegar, things like that. And the great thing is the book also has recipes in it at the end of the book that put these practices into actual recipes, into actual cooking, so that you can actually get your hands into the recipes and get a sense for what the book is talking about. It's not all just academic, like acid does this. It actually has recipes that show you, like, using lemon juice in this recipe, here's what it's going to do. And if you're not tasting that, add a bit more until you can get that sensation within the food. And being able to do that and kind of see those principles unlock in real time is something that's really, really special and really, really interesting and fun to engage with. So of all the books that I've talked about, and I think I'll talk about one more after this one I think is the most broadly helpful, because I know so many people that cook at home, so many people that try their hand at it. And this is a great way to get beyond recipes and into the really fun kind of improvisational aspects of cooking. Okay, and the last fiction book that I want to tell you all about, and this is my favorite fiction book that I read all of last year. It's called Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. And when I say that this book picked the perfect balance between cozy, comforting, like fiction, while also having tangible stakes, it was a remarkable read, because there was never a point where I was stressed while reading it, but there were still meaningful stakes that I was concerned on behalf of the character for. And so the idea, it's like the first pages you find this out, so it's not a spoiler. The main character has died, and he was like very focused on his career, business, things like that. That was his primary focus. In fact, I think he dies of a heart attack in his office. I read this literally a year ago, last May. So get off my back for not remembering all the details. But part of the transition period from death to whatever comes after is he is escorted to a small tea. Yeah, they only serve tea, I think. Yeah, tea shop that is run by Hugo, who is basically a ferryman, is the idea. Like, he is there, he runs this tea shop to give spirits time to process the fact that they have died, come to terms with the fact that they've died, before they then pass on through the whispering door upstairs. And you just get this great sense of love and earnestness from Hugo and everyone in the tea shop. There's a phenomenal cast of characters that just exude that it's going to be okay kind of vibe. And It's an adorable read. You have Hugo, you have his grandpa, who's a ghost that just decided to stay. Like he had no interest in moving on. Hugo's dog, Hugo's assistant, who's a reaper. She's the one that collects the main character. And boy, I cannot remember the main character's name for the life of me. Wallace. His name is Wallace. So yeah, Wallace gets collected and brought to the tea shop, and it's just a very nice read. And by the end of it, I immediately went and saw what other TJ Klune books I could read, because by the end of it, I got choked up and kind of teary-eyed, because, you know, the goal is for Wallace to leave. That's the whole reason Wallace is at the tea shop, is so he can come to terms with his death, so that one day he can pass on. But obviously, you spend a whole book with this cast of characters in the tea shop, so the idea of leaving becomes more and more frightening, because part of the cruelty of the story is that when Wallace died, because he was so focused on his career and himself, he didn't really have anything to lose. Obviously, he thought he did because he had built this life, but you know, if he would have immediately just transitioned to the afterlife, he wouldn't have felt like he was losing much. But by the end of the book, when it becomes time for him to leave, and he spent all this time with Hugo and all the rest of the people in the tea shop, it then becomes this terrifying idea of leaving this new life that he's developed behind. So yeah, that's why I really like this book, and I would very much recommend it from a fiction standpoint. If that, even if it doesn't sound interesting, I promise you'll like reading this book, in my opinion. So that's just my take on it. So I hope you all enjoyed this rambling rant of the top books that I read in the past 12 months. And if you like this, let me know down in the comments below. If you want more of me on the channel, let Maile know in the comments down below. Set Eric free. Just put that in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Eric, and don't forget to like the video, smash the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.